And cut. That was great.
For more than 50 years, Steven Spielberg has captivated audiences with his signature brand of movie magic, creating films that have changed the landscape of Hollywood forever.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
And pushing the bounds of what we thought was possible. Now, in his latest movie, Disclosure Day,
What did you steal?
Secrets.
he's blending fantasy with reality.
And cut. So we got it.
As life imitates art, and we experience our own real-life disclosure days from the government,
The sheer number of reports, whistleblowers, and stories of unidentified anomalous phenomena should raise real questions and warrant investigation and oversight.
this is Full Disclosure, the reality behind Spielberg's Disclosure Day. Steven Spielberg has made movies about soldiers, spies, pirates, and presidents. But over the course of his legendary career, there is one subject he keeps coming back to. Are we alone in the universe? It is the central question of Spielberg's latest movie, Disclosure Day.
Do you think there could be others?
Yes.
David Kemp, the screenwriter for Disclosure Day, has been a Spielberg collaborator for decades.
I really awoke to an email from Steven Spielberg with a 38-page treatment of the movie story. He sent me this thing. He said, I've been working on an idea. I've had it in my head for years. Here it is. Tell me what you think.
I knew that not only this was a gift of a character, but just a gift of a film, and thematically exploring that idea of are we alone or are we not alone, and to question humanity's place in the universe was just very profound, very deep.
It's a mystery as old as time, and one that has fascinated Spielberg his whole life.
Just a deep interest in the unknown becoming the known. I've always, ever since I was a kid, I was fascinated with the sky and what's up there.
We dug back in our archives, and his story hasn't changed in 5 decades.
I used to camp a lot with my folks under the stars, and I've been a stargazer ever since I was maybe 7 years old. Did you ever see?
In fact, he was so mesmerized by the sky that one of his first student films was about pilots. That early experimentation helped Spielberg become Hollywood's youngest ever director with a major studio deal. And within a few years, he was a household name with the release of the first summer blockbuster, Jaws. 50 years later, Disclosure Day promises the same kind of thrills.
This 79-year cover-up of the truth has to end.
And we're being thrust into this place of this unknown, but hopefully we'll hold hands together and we'll take a leap of faith.
Spielberg's follow-up to Jaws was a landmark in science fiction. Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
You know, it took me a lot of years to suddenly realize that what I really wanted to do was
A movie about benevolent space, not a movie about, you know, hostile visitors.
Like Disclosure Day, Close Encounters was born out of Spielberg's desire to try to explain the unexplainable.
I'm frustrated because I'd never really seen something that I couldn't explain. And maybe out of this frustration, out of a belief that there is life in the universe, I wanted to make a picture about the UFO phenomena.
Close Encounters was the first time the subject matter was taken seriously in a contemporary sense. In the late 70s in Close Encounters, the question was, hey, I think maybe the government's lying to us. Not just in Close Encounters, but a bunch of movies from that era. Because we've been through Watergate, Vietnam, we wondered, gee, maybe they're lying to us. In 2026, we know they're lying to us. Now we want to know why and what is the truth.
Close Encounters was a critical and commercial smash, nominated for 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and his first nomination for Best Director. It was also released the same year as another influential sci-fi movie, Star Wars.
My friend George Lucas was fascinated with what's out there, because Star Wars doesn't take place here, it takes place what's out there. And I always thought, no, I love those movies, but I'm more interested in what is going on from out there to here. And that's where my science fiction stories kind of focus on visitations.
3 years later, when Spielberg was making one of the greatest action-adventure films, space was still a fascination.
Shooting Raiders of the Lost Ark in the Sahara Desert. And I remember at night going out, it was just beautiful up there. And I remember thinking the story, putting the pieces of E.T. together during those moments in between shots on Raiders.
I have with me here Steven Spielberg, the man who made the movie Jaws, and more important, I guess, for our purposes today, the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Here's Spielberg in 1981 witnessing advances in human space travel at the launch of the space shuttle Columbia.
How does the reality here compare to your fantasies?
This is a reality which is much more expensive than my imagination. This is the best kind of reality because it's going to get the space program back on both feet and right into the 21st century. So it's really a rather remarkable day.
Liftoff of America's first space shuttle.
Remarkable and inspirational.
Is there things you've seen here that's going to maybe influence what you do in the films in the future?
Well, I think what's really influential here is the enthusiasm. It's really great to know that there are so many people who believe in getting off Earth for various scientific or even fantasy reasons, and it reinforces my belief in science fiction even more.
And just a year after NASA's first orbital shuttle launch, Spielberg introduced the world to a visitor from another planet.
E.T. Home phone.
Close Encounters was at its heart, I think, a family drama, and of course, being the late 70s, about a government conspiracy. E.T. is another family drama, but it's a deeply emotional story.
I thought this was going to be my small personal film, and I would quietly, be proud of it for the rest of my life and have it under my arm and show it to people who I could force into theaters to see this picture. I'm very happy that it's reached out to so many people.
E.T. became the top-grossing movie in Hollywood history and held that title for more than a decade. And its title character made alien life feel more real than ever.
You personally believe in intelligent life in space? Absolutely. I think that as we sit here and speak, right now, there is the Today Show somewhere else, and the same thing is happening. I really believe that the probability of life elsewhere is infinite, and the improbability of life elsewhere is infinitesimal. I just can't really imagine anyone with the technology that would provide a ship and a means of getting here, I guess traveling light years, and finally arriving here after maybe a 3-generation journey, that they would actually step off the ship and hit the first person over the head they see with a laser rock.
Although E.T. in Close Encounters featured benevolent aliens, 20 years later, Spielberg flipped the script. War of the Worlds is a fast-paced sci-fi thriller about space invaders.
War of the Worlds was great fun. That was They're Coming to Get Us.
What happened to us?
And this, I think, grows out of its own times.
Oh my God!
It's a breathless chase, this movie. And he wanted to start in the middle of that chase and go. It's also about being lied to or not having the truth told. And why is that?
Now, 2 decades after War of the Worlds, it looks like Spielberg is ready to once again tackle the biggest question in the universe. Coming up.
Do you solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony that...
Has science fiction finally become fact? What we're learning from real-life disclosures on ETs and UAPs. Plus, we'll go behind the scenes of Disclosure Day and its pulse-pounding hunt for the truth. the big screen
Do you solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony that
to Capitol Hill.
I do not have an explanation for what this specific object is.
There seems to be a universal quest to finally answer, are we alone?
Are they people?
No. The new movie Disclosure Day is being released at a time when more and more people are open to the idea that there may be life beyond Earth, including some of the most powerful people on the planet.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility, unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
When that interview went viral, former President Obama clarified online, quote, "The odds are good there's life out there," but added he saw no evidence of alien life during his presidency. In recent years, even Congress has taken on this existential inquiry, looking at unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs, or what used to be called UFOs.
Do you believe, just for the record, that the federal government, any part of the federal government, is knowingly concealing evidence about UAPs from the public?
Yes, sir. 100%.
We had already started working on the story, and then those hearings took place.
You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
We were watching, and the sense of congruent timing was overwhelming. Disclosure was starting to occur while we were talking about a movie about disclosure.
If you believe we have crashed craft, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
The paradigm was shifted once the world saw that actual Navy pilots and Air Force pilots and people in Congress, senators, Capitol Hill was taking an interest. Congress was starting to take an interest in this.
Decades ago, we would have reports of alien sightings, of alien abductions, and the sources tended to not be people who you would lend high credence to. It tends to be testimony driven, or images of fuzzy lights in the sky, this sort of thing. Beginning, I guess, it was 2017 with the release of the Navy pilot descriptions of the infamous Tic Tac on the monochromatic screen, and follow that a few years later by testimonies in Congress by whistleblowers and ex-military and ex-intelligence officers. So you can't write off any longer any possibility that these people are crazy or were deluded.
Previously, it was housewives, truck drivers. They saw something in the sky, but that's it. Now we have videotapes from the Air Force, from the military, and scientists see this as a treasure trove of documents that may once and for all settle the whole debate.
And good morning, Kansas City.
In preparation for Disclosure Day, star Emily Blunt turned to hearings and testimonials for inspiration.
I had never gone down the rabbit hole of looking at every congressional hearing that's taken place, every documentary, docuseries, everyone who has had a genuine experience. And it was their absolute authenticity, their peacefulness in knowing what they saw, however discredited they'd been, disvalued, kicked out of their job, called a whistleblower. I think that it was just this resonant peacefulness that they know what they saw, they've been ever shifted by it, and it just became inarguable to me. So I became invested in them, in the people who'd had these experiences.
And after decades of stigma, the sudden push for transparency became part of the national conversation.
I've interviewed people, my first term primarily, but I interviewed some pilots, very solid people, and they said they saw things that you wouldn't believe.
As of June 2026, the Pentagon released 2 batches of declassified UFO files with the promise of more on the way. The files include a military video from 2013 of what appears to be an 8-pointed star streaking across the sky, and mysterious white and black aerial blips.
A handful of these sightings defy the known laws of science. We're talking about objects that can dive bomb from 70,000 feet, travel faster than our fastest jet airplanes, and then dive into the oceans. So we're talking about not just mom and dad seeing something in the sky. We're now talking about a new technology that is beyond anything that we can muster on the Earth.
The second batch of files include audio of astronauts decades ago describing mysterious bright lights and particles.
There's a whole bunch of big ones on my window there. Just bright. Looks like the 4th of July out Ron's window.
The files date back to the 1940s, including an FBI report from an Air Force colonel reporting a flying disc, and in 2023, video of 3 concentric circles flying in unison.
So in the book, in Take Me to Your Leader, there's a whole chapter on alien science and technology. They're limited by laws of physics. They're laws of physics we test on Earth that are repeated across the universe and across time. They would be subject to those same laws of physics. But let's assume they're just way smarter than us or way more capable. They would do engineering things that would be marvels to us. Let's say they do live in a higher dimension. That would be kind of cool. They could go unspotted until they step through our dimension, and we would see the 3D versions of them as they move through our dimensionality. That would be kind of cool. But there's no reason for that to be fuzzy. There's no reason for only some people to see it and not the masses.
Despite the releases, the scientists we spoke to say what they've seen so far is inconclusive.
I must say that the first release of data on May 8th, 2026 was not particularly intriguing. I mean, there was a collection of images, videos that could be interpreted in terms of what we find here on Earth.
Evidence is evidence. Give me an artifact. Give me the thing itself. That's evidence. And nowadays, it's no longer an excuse to just bring me fuzzy images.
And even though there's no proof in the initial files that there's other intelligent life out there, some scientists hope that there is more to come.
I would hope that they would manifest to us more reliably than lights in the sky and just through eyewitness testimony unrecorded with our high data taking devices. I need better evidence.
I very much hope that the most intriguing data is yet to come. The best is yet to come, simply for the reason that it takes more time to declassify it since it was obtained more recently by better sensors.
But I love thinking about aliens. So does our culture. How many movies are there about aliens? There's zillions. It's fun to look at how we're imagining them.
It's unclear yet if truth will be stranger than fiction.
I don't claim to have an explanation for everything that we can't explain. The universe brims with mysteries.
I don't have any evidence, obviously, that because I don't have any inside information about living among us, but I think the circumstantial evidence that exists right now at this point is overwhelmingly convincing that that we are not alone.
Up next,
the human race cannot accept what we know.
We'll take you inside the sci-fi thriller of the summer.
This all stops. Now.
What are you gonna do?
Full disclosure to the whole world, all at once.
Disclosure Day from NBC's sister company Universal Pictures is Steven Spielberg's big return to science fiction.
It is about the biggest news event in the history of humankind. And if these characters are successful in getting these secrets released to the global public, then the whole world is going to change. And the suspenseful part of our film is, are they really going to be able to get to the newsroom? Are they really going to be able to disseminate the truth?
What happened to us? Oh my God. Who is it?
when I first met Stephen that the description of the movie was two people that don't know each other or think they don't know each other being pulled together, and the film is about uniting them.
And linked by something in their
linked
past.
by something in their past,
A shared experience they didn't realize they had.
Actor Josh O'Connor, star of Challengers in The Crown, plays Daniel Kellner.
You gotta take this. And for God's sake, Jane, don't touch what's inside. Go, go.
Stephen and I talked really early on about him just feeling like he's just rolling with it.
O'Connor's character shares a mysterious bond with Margaret Fairchild.
But you know. I mean, you've been driving like a maniac the last few days, you know.
How did you know that?
A TV meteorologist played by star Emily Blunt.
Good. We had many chats about what it should sound like. He said, I think it should sound kind of mathematical and not terrifying. Right. Like there's a warmth, there's something to convey, there's a message. It will be overwhelming for people and it will be odd, but I don't want it to be scary.
That's really good.
Thank you.
In the film, the main characters are on the run from a shadow agency trying to conceal the truth about aliens.
Both these characters are us, you know, they're just experiencing it, you know, as a human would.
If the unknown is known by a very, very small group of very powerful people, what about all the rest of us? And that's the inequity, and that's the injustice, and that's sort of what prompted me to sit down and write this in 2023, the story.
There will be no other day like tomorrow.
Academy Award-nominated actor Coleman Domingo plays Hugo, a whistleblower from the agency.
Oh, don't condescend to me. I'm listening to you, Noah. Something I've learned quite a bit about. From your friends? Yes. They regard empathy as an evolutionary advantage, as the foremost evolutionary advantage.
I think the thing that Stephen was laying out for Hugo, my character, is that he's got a deep sense of empathy, and he carries that with him. He knows more than most people in the film, and he's patient, and he's kind, and he really believes in the possibility of inviting others into the experience.
The movie is a heart-stopping supernatural action thriller. It's also emotional and profound.
You cannot talk about extraterrestrial life without talking about God. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but I believe it's because they are both fundamental belief systems.
Does God love us?
I don't mean does he love us. I know he does.
Does he love only us? Because Genesis says that we're his supreme creation, but do you think it's possible that...
On Earth.
What?
Genesis. It says we are God's supreme creation on Earth.
I really believe that an audience experience invites what this film is all about, which is how do we get our communities back together again? What do we do about finding common ground? And movies are the place where you can share an experience, whether you agree with each other or not, it's common ground.
This is the fourth time he's explored this subject matter. And what I think is really cool is that every time it's been in a different style, in a different aspect of it.
Disclosure Day, the culmination of Hollywood's most successful director's incredible career, a film of suspense and wonder.
I think in many ways it's a bookend to Close Encounters, informed by an additional 50 years of information and an additional 50 years of Stephen's own growth and emotional maturity. This movie makes me cry. I've seen it several times and cry every time. This movie makes me cry in much the way E.T. did, so I think emotionally those two are kindred. If there's one image that would summarize his movies and worldview, it might be that boy standing in the desert under an enormous starlit sky.
The truth is out there and somebody knows the truth, and hopefully more people will know the truth sooner than later. Oh, that was the best ever. Thank you so much, guys. Beautiful, beautiful cut.